The first stones. Before there was an empire strong enough to unite China, the northern frontier was a place of constant uncertainty. It was not a single boundary, but a shifting edge where villages, farmland, and early states lived under the pressure of sudden raids and unpredictable conflict. Life here was shaped by tension. Every distant movement on the horizon could signal danger. In response, different regions began building their own forms of defense. These early structures were not monumental. They were simple earthworks, created by pressing soil layer by layer until it hardened into crude barriers. There was no grand design, no unified strategy, only survival. Yet something important was forming beneath all this fragmentation. Each wall, each mound of earth, represented the same human instinct, the desire to protect what is fragile. These scattered defenses would later become the foundation of something far greater in scale and ambition. This was the earliest beginning of what history would eventually recognize as the Great Wall of China. Not a single structure yet, but a growing idea shaped by fear, endurance, and necessity. The Empire's command. Everything changed when the Qin dynasty unified China. What had once been separate states became one empire under centralized power. With this unification came a bold and unprecedented order: connect the scattered defensive walls into a single continuous system. Emperor Qin Shi Huang did not see isolated walls. He saw a frontier that could be strengthened if it were joined together. The goal was no longer local defense. It was empire-wide protection against northern invasions. To achieve this vision, massive labor forces were mobilized. Soldiers, farmers, and prisoners were sent into harsh terrain with little preparation. Mountains had to be cut through, rivers crossed, stones carried by hand over long and unforgiving distances. The cost was immense. Many workers never returned. Yet progress continued because the idea itself had become larger than any individual life. For the first time, scattered defenses became a unified structure. The foundation of the Great Wall had truly begun. Expansion across the frontier. As centuries passed, the wall evolved. During the Han Dynasty, China expanded its influence westward, opening trade routes that would become known as the Silk Road. The wall was no longer just a barrier. It became part of a larger system controlling movement, trade, and communication. Its reach extended into deserts where survival was even more difficult than in the mountains. Here, the wall was not only stone and earth, but also information. Watchtowers were built far apart, designed to communicate through smoke during the day and fire at night. These signals could travel faster than armies, creating a network of early warning across vast empty landscapes. Caravans moved beneath this silent system, carrying goods, culture, and ideas between worlds. The wall had become more than defense. It had become infrastructure for an empire stretching across impossible distances. The Ming Transformation. By the time of the Ming Dynasty, the Great Wall was no longer a fragile system of earth and scattered stone. It had become a fully realized military structure. The Ming rulers rebuilt and reinforced it using brick and stone, transforming it into a far stronger and more permanent defense system. Towers were redesigned for surveillance and combat readiness. Garrisons became permanent military stations. This was not expansion anymore, it was refinement. Every section of the wall was engineered for durability and long-term defense. What emerged was the version of the Great Wall most people recognize today. A continuous stone spine cutting across mountains, deserts, and valleys. Life along the wall. For those stationed along the wall, life was defined by isolation and discipline. Soldiers lived far from cities and families, spending years in remote garrisons where time seemed to move differently. Their daily lives were repetitive but essential. Patrol the wall, repair damage, watch the horizon, and wait. Communication depended on signals carried across towers, connecting distant points into a fragile network. Nearby, small farming communities existed under the protection of the wall. These settlements relied on its presence for safety, even as they lived in its shadow. The wall was both barrier and lifeline. It divided worlds, but it also allowed life to continue in places that would otherwise have been unlivable. War across distance. The Great Wall was never an impenetrable barrier. Instead, it functioned as a complex defensive system that required coordination across vast distances. Battles along its length were rarely centralized. Instead, conflict unfolded in scattered locations, where timing and communication determined survival. Smoke signals, messengers, and watchtowers formed a network that could respond quickly, but only if coordination held. A delay in communication could change the outcome of entire campaigns. The wall did not end war. It reshaped it into something more strategic, more distributed, and more dependent on information than brute force alone. Decline into silence. Over time, the strategic importance of the wall gradually declined. New political realities and military technologies reduced its role as a primary defense system. Without constant maintenance, sections began to collapse. Weather, erosion, and time slowly reclaimed stone and towers. Yet even in decay, the wall did not disappear. It remained visible across the landscape, a long memory carved into mountains and deserts. Modern legacy. Today, the Great Wall stands as one of the most recognized monuments in the world. It is no longer a tool of war, but a symbol of endurance, ambition, and human effort across centuries. Restored sections allow visitors to walk its ancient path and witness its scale firsthand. From above, it stretches across mountains like a stone dragon frozen in time. It has become a shared cultural heritage, studied, preserved, and admired across the world. Eternal memory. The Great Wall is not just a structure of stone. It is a record of human persistence written across thousands of years. It carries the weight of empires, the labor of millions, and the shifting meaning of survival itself. What began as scattered earthworks became one of the most ambitious constructions in human history. Today, it stands not as a barrier between nations, but as a bridge between past and present, a reminder of what humanity can build when driven by necessity, vision, and endurance. And even now, as wind moves across its ancient stones, it continues to speak in silence of the people who once built it to hold back the horizon.